something.
Yeah, just getting ready on my side. I've been waffling too much and I didn't get ready.
All right, we're live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And today we're going to continue with part 2 regarding the subjugation under Islam, dhimmis and jizya, and what does this all mean to people like you and I who are Christians, some people who are viewing who are Jews, but also when we talk about the Khilafah, what does it look like? And I think with Lloyd's presentation last week, there are some things that we've never heard before, or we weren't quite aware of how bad it really is. Islam wants to make us believe that it's here to bring enlightenment, reformation. The world's problems and the answers are found in Islam. But today, I'm going to introduce you again, for those of you who are new and you've not listened to last week's show, I'm going to introduce you to Brother Lloyd and also Thaddeus. Basically, Thaddeus and I are actually just offering commentary on this amazing presentation that Lloyd's been doing, even on his own channel. But also check out he's done several series also on Logos Media and also on his own channel as well. And recently we were doing some collaborations on Thaddeus's channel called Reasoned Answers Apologetics. So you can find a lot more of that there as well. But I'm going to introduce you both to just to basically introduce yourselves, Thaddeus and Lloyd.
Hello, my name is Thaddeus. My channel is Reasoned Answers. I am a Christian. I've been talking about Islam for exactly 1 year now. I launched my channel 1 year ago today. I have a video out today to celebrate my 1 year anniversary where I look at the dumbest comment a Muslim has ever made on my channel. Just kind of a fun look, so check that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday to your channel, Thaddeus. Yeah, that was great. That was a really funny video.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's really funny. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah, so thanks everyone. I studied the Sharia. I studied the the lesser known Islamic books, which are also part of the canon. So I go through the Hadith, I go through the Sharia, especially the Islamic laws, and also I cover the Sirah. I'm now starting to talk more and more about the Sirah and some of the other collections of Hadith that are less well known, as well as the Tafsir, which are the scholarly writings of major scholars of Islam, the people who form what they call their consensus, their ijma, and these ideas and this consensus ultimately became the Sharia, the ultimate Islamic law. So that's what I do. And yeah, thank you very much for that kind introduction, Sonia.
I'm so looking forward to part 2 today because there's a lot more to it. And what we're trying to do is keep the videos to at least like an hour and a half. And hopefully people are actually really listening. And if you need to replay the video, because Lloyd's presentations, they're jam-packed, they're loaded with information and detail. So we're trying to think how to actually present it to you, but not so much in bite size, because then people disregard videos when they're just short, they're not really taking it in. So I hope you understand the seriousness of this topic, this subject, and how we have not been aware of this side of what Islam really is. It's a system, remember? So I'm going to talk about this today, but Thaddeus, is there anything you want to say before Lloyd starts?
Nope, I'm just looking forward to this presentation as well. Lloyd always brings a lot of interesting material because he spends a lot of time reading the Sharia laws, so we don't have to.
Yeah, thank you for the hard work.
Oh yeah, the pain I go through. Okay, well then let me start. So let me share my screen. I will be sharing my, actually let me just do this.
Good evening from West Midlands. Oh, excellent. From Indonesia, awesome. Miami. That's awesome. What a crowd.
Okay, I'm going to share my secondary screen and
let's go.
Okay, so
cool.
I just lost my place. Let me just get it back. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, tonight we're going to continue with part 2 of my discussion on what happens in a caliphate when you've been conquered by an Islamic army. You now are a dhimmi and you owe them the jizya. They have to take jizya from you. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to use different sources. I'm going to use the Sharia, various Sharia manuals, and I'm also going to utilize the Sirah, and I'm going to use, last week I used some hadiths and things. So yeah, we're going to go through multiple different Islamic manuals from very authoritative sources, their best sources. I will make these links available. This is a teaching resource for you. And if you really, really want to, if you want to give this discussion in your church or to your group or whatever the case is, I can share these presentations with you. And if you want, of course, I'm available. If you want me to do a video presentation to your to your church group or whatever, I'm happy to do this. All of these are referenced. All of the books that I take this from is available. You can check them for yourself. Briefly, just to cover, thanks very much to a quote I got last week from the Mafia. That was from Dashing Rogue. Thank you for that. You mentioned Mafi, comes from Mafi, spawned the the Italian word mafia, right? Sicily was once an Islamic emirate for 200 years and more. Mafia may have come to Sicily through Arabic, through the words blah, blah, blah. Okay, Mafi in Arabic is the exempted. In Islamic law, Jizya is the yearly tax imposed on non-Muslims residing in Muslim lands, and people who pay it are exempted from prosecution. So if you pay the Mafia money...
Yeah,
Isn't that amazing that we've been saying it in jest? It's like a mafia, but look, lo and behold.
Yeah, I can see the tie in there. I mean, pay the mob protection money, pay the mafia protection money, or pay the Muslim rulers protection money. Same thing.
That's exactly it. So yeah, I'm going to do like 10 or 15 slides, and then I'm going to skip to a Sharia manual after this. So we'll do a handful of slides, then I'll jump straight to a single Sharia manual. The reason is that this Sharia manual, the most popular Hanafi fiqh one and one of the most famous, probably number 2 in the list of Sharia manuals in popularity and availability. This is a very, very important Sharia manual, is that it has about 50 or 60 pages covering Jizya laws. So it has a lot of detail on Jizya law. Okay, let's move on. So now I want to show you about the Islamic scholars and how they sanitize the surah. So I'm going to be talking about different things as well, which are related and what they teach Muslims. So notice it says here, the teaching of Moses is as far from our conceptions of justice and fair play, nor is it possible to act upon the teaching of Moses today. The teaching of Jesus is impractical and has ever been so. Never in their history have Christians tried to put this teaching into practice. Only the teaching of Islam is practicable, one which has been both preached and practiced by its exponents, and the practice of which can create and maintain peace in the world. This is the Islamic position on Jesus. This is from the Sirah, the life of Muhammad, and this is by Hadrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad, whatever, right? So this is from a chapter called The Teachings of Christianity About War. Let's see a little bit more. The practical verdict of the Christian peoples is that war is the real teaching of the New Testament. Turning the other cheek was an opportunist teaching dictated by the helplessness of early Christians. Notice that this is sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just thinking the helplessness of the early Christians. That's just how they want us to be.
Yeah, this is an inversion. So let's see, the Quran on War and Peace. Islam does not teach aggression as did Moses, nor does it, like present day and presumably corrupt Christianity, preach a contradiction. This is what they teach Muslims. This is a manual used to teach Muslim children about Islam. Islam forbids aggression, but it urges us to fight if failure to fight jeopardizes peace and promotes war. If failure to fight means the extirpation of free belief and of the search of truth, it is our duty to fight. In other words, if it is not possible that Islam be promoted within a given country, Muslims must go on jihad to ensure that it is. Let's have a look. So let's have a look at the Sharia and let's see what the Sharia has to say about that. So let's go to the Reliance of the Traveler and let's look at the chapter on jihad. This is called the Objectives of Jihad. It's section 09.8. Let's test this claim on the left here. The Caliph makes war upon Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians, provided he has first invited them to enter Islam in faith and practice, and if they will not, then invited them to enter the social order of Islam by paying the non-Muslim poll tax, the Jizya, which is the significance of their paying it, in other words, to force them into Islam. The war continues until they become Muslim or else pay the non-Muslim poll tax in accordance with the word of Allah the Most High. Fight those who do not believe in Allah until they pay the poll tax out of hand and are humbled. Quran 9:29.
So that's very interesting. They say there's no aggression, but then they say the job of every Muslim is to wage war.
Yeah.
I think that it's not aggression because you're first being aggressive by not converting to Islam, I guess. So
Yes,
it's
you are
defensive.
fighting. Correct. Now, when they say when it promotes war, well, I mean, okay. What I need to do is maybe after this, I can do a show on jihad and explain exactly the Sharia doctrine of jihad, exactly how it's all defined. Because jizya is obviously comes from you being conquered, and being conquered, it comes from as a result of jihad. So we have to define that as well. But yeah, you can see the Sharia contradicts this statement. So now let's look at Jamia Tirmidhi, the chapters on military expeditions. Now, what's interesting is that the discussion on dhimmis comes under the chapter on military expeditions. So it is an order for Muslims that they should not give such leeway to the non-Muslims. Muslims were only to humiliate them. For this reason, when one of them is met on the path, a Muslim is not to yield for him, because doing so would amount to honoring the non-Muslim. And then, of course, it goes on here. Ibn Umar narrated, the Messenger of Allah said, indeed, when a Jew gives salam to one of you, then he's only saying, Assalamu alaikum, death be upon you. So say alaik and upon you. And this is Sahih. Right? Just so you know about the thoughts that, and the chapters on military traditions, page 378, Jizya. So if they refuse to pay, if they refuse to convert, if they refuse to convert to Islam, then take the jizya from them. And if they refuse to pay jizya, then seek aid from Allah and make war against them. Somehow this guy never got the memo.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, how did this great scholar in the very early history of Islam not know about all these internet scholars today that tell us the exact opposite?
It's shocking that Tirmidhi, one of the finest scholars of Islam, he didn't have YouTube. He never had the benefit of the comment section. Clearly. Let's continue. So let's look at the history of Al-Tabari. This is the finest, regarded as the finest tafsir writer and the finest historian and also biographer and surah writer of Muhammad, right? And they say, now you and he have written between you a document. So the contract of the Dhimma is a written document, and you've agreed on a truce, but God has put an end to discussion and truces. So remember verse 9:5, right? Verse 9:5 tells us when they've broken, which I discussed last week, where verse 9:5 abrogates all truces, abrogates all peace agreements, right? Has put an end to discussion and truces between the Muslims and the people of war. Guess who the people of war are? That's you.
The Christians and the Jews.
Right? Since the revelations of quittance, except for those who agree to pay the jizya. So in other words, all truces are abrogated between the Muslims and the Christians and Jews since the revelation of quittance, which is Surah 9, right? Especially verse 9:5, except for those who agree to pay the jizya. So the only way to stop Muslims from making war on you is to pay the jizya. Now, if you look, quittance, al-bara, is the title of Surah 9, also called Surah al-Tawbah, right? They call it repentance, but it actually also means ultimatum, in which the jizya, in Muslim law, poll tax, is paid by non-Muslims and is a sign of inferiority. That's Tabari, volume 17, page 101. Right? There are 40 volumes of Tabari. I have all 40 of them. Right? Let's go on. So jihad and jizya, they go together like pork and bacon. Whoever abandons the jihad that is waged for God, okay, falls short. So Muslims who abandon the jihad that is waged for Allah falls short and is on the brink of his own destruction, right? So fear God, fear Allah, in other words, and fight against those who oppose him. Well, I oppose him. They have to fight me. They have to fight you. Fight against those who are in error and go astray. Now, who's in error and going astray? Well, that would be Christians. The unrighteous and the evildoers, that's you, Christians. And those who are not readers of the Quran, well, I don't read that crap, so that's me, okay? And who do not have experts in religion, the fuqaha of whatever, or learned in exegesis, the ulama, and so on, who have no reason of any precedence except the only choice we have, in other words, is to accept Islam. make ready and prepare to set out against your enemies amongst the people of the West.
Wow.
So yeah, somehow this guy also didn't get the memo. So yeah, let's have a look at Sahih Muslim. If they refuse Islam, demand from them the jizya. If they refuse to pay the tax, seek Allah's help and fight them. When you lay siege to the fort, blah, blah, blah. So, and then he talks about, do not accord them the guarantee of Allah and his prophet, okay, and so on. And so they say here, if they refuse to, so that's Sahih Muslim. All of these Islamic sources agree that we have to be fought for not accepting Islam. We have to have it imposed upon us. And if we refuse it, we have to pay the jizya. So the Sirah manuals that the Muslims are getting in school are false.
Lloyd, I was going to ask you a question. I just remembered something. Isn't it true that Ahmadinejad and Osama bin Laden at some point sent an invitation to the West?
Yes, they did. Osama did. Yeah. Yeah, he did. They did.
Right. So they're following these rules, right?
Yeah, they do. I can talk about that at some point. I have mentioned that in previous discussions on Unspun, on the Logos Media channel, but yeah, they do follow the rules. It's consistent. I mean, I'm going to show you lots of sources and it's completely consistent. So this is on the commentary of the Creed of At-Tahawi by whoever this is, but this guy is from university, the Saud Islamic University in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and also the Institute of Islamic and Arabic Sciences in America. So obviously he has no idea what he's talking about. Al-Bukhari and others have recorded from Abu Huraira that the Prophet said, by the one in whose hand my life is, the son of Mary, that's Jesus, will come down to you as a judge, just and fair. He will demolish the cross, in other words, destroy the church, kill the swine, and abolish the jizya, because there'll be no more non-Muslims. And there will be an abundance of wealth because everyone will have money somehow. And there is none of the people of the book that must believe in Jesus before his death and on the day of judgment. Okay, when they say but must believe, they say they have to. It's enforced upon you. So all the people of the book must believe in Jesus. And on the day of judgment, Jesus will be a witness against them. He doesn't mean that he will be in the sense of Jesus will then judge you. He means he will be a witness, a hostile witness against you. That's what they mean. Jesus is going to judge you negatively because there are two Jesus figures in Islam. There is the Antichrist, Satan Jesus, which is the Jesus of the Christian New Testament, and the Islamic Jesus, who is the Gnostic Jesus taken from the Gnostic texts, who is also humiliated by the scholars as well. And he's less than Muhammad. He goes to the seventh, Muhammad goes to the seventh heaven, Moses is on the fifth or sixth heaven, Jesus is on the second heaven, and the Christian Jesus is the Dajjal, the Antichrist. But let's continue. And
Yeah, I'm just going to say that I'm detecting a theme here. Somehow all these scholars, whether they're ancient, modern, the Hadith collections, they all seem to agree that Islam allows you to wage war against Christians.
Yeah.
But that can't be true, because in the media, I always hear that Islam's very peaceful and it's only fake Muslims that wage war.
Well, yeah, I haven't found any authentic texts that say anything else. And notice they're now trying to make Christianity to be the religion of warfare, which, they're trying to invert Islam into a religion of peace falsely and Christianity into a religion of warfare. And the apostle said, fight in the name of Allah and in the path of Allah, i.e. the truth, combat those who disbelieve in Allah. I don't know. You tell me. You tell me what that means. Let's look at the rule.
Totalitarianism.
So let's look at the Al-Hidayah, the guidance. This is another Sharia manual, chapter 1 and 9, the rules of warfare. The Prophet did not commence combat with the people without first inviting them to Islam. If they respond positively, they are to refrain from fighting them due to the attainment of the purpose of converting you to Islam. If they refuse, they are to invite them to the payment of jizya. And they mention jizya a lot. And then they say, and if you don't pay, because only Islam's, there's no benefit in inviting them to accept jizya because only Islam is acceptable from them. That's like atheists. And then shall you fight or they shall submit. And it says here, so the reason is that through the invitation to Islam, they come to know that we engage them in battle on account of our faith, the Islamic faith, and not for stealing their wealth. Okay, so that basically they're fighting us because of religion. They say here they're not here to steal our wealth. They're fighting us because their faith demands it. Perhaps they will respond positively so that the burden of battle is avoided. So to avoid battle, you might turn Muslim. If the commander engages them in battle before communicating the invitation, he commits a sin. Nevertheless, there is no financial penalty due to the absence of there being protection, they're not Muslim, so it's okay. You can still attack them even if you haven't invited them, which arises from the deen or their being in the Dar al-Islam. Thus, it becomes like the killing of women and children. I thought they don't kill women and children, but it's okay apparently. If they reject the invitation, they are to seek the help of Allah and engage them in combat. So Allah helps his friends and destroys his enemies, and they mean that literally. Let's have a look. Let's see. If he conquers their territory, then their men and women are booty due to the permissibility of their enslavement.
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Islam. Now, don't forget, Muslims are being taught exactly the opposite. They're being lied to by their scholars in these manuals, like I showed you the Surah manual. They're being lied to. Now, this is another Islamic Sharia manual called the Risala, a treatise on Maliki fiqh. They talk about Jizya. Jizya is taken from the men of the people of the Dhimma status. And Ibn Rushd, again, an Islamic scholar that Westerners revere, defines it thus: what is taken from the people of disbelief, that's you and me, in repayment for their security and sparing their lives while they remain unbelievers. Because in theory, they should just kill us for not believing. And Harbi traders paying a tenth. A tenth is also levied from traders who come from the Dar al-Harb, the land of war, beyond the frontiers of Islam. So the land outside of any Islamic state is the land of warfare.
It's true.
So let's look at the reliance of the traveler, the most famous Sharia manual in the world. This is Book P, section P 32.0 on collecting taxes, meaning to take revenues other than those which are countenanced by sacred law, such as the zakat and the non-Muslim poll tax, the jizya, or the spoils of war. So again, jizya, technically spoils of war. And always when they discuss the jizya, they talk in context of warfare and conquering. So yeah, it's just constant. And notice, Ibn Khattab said, I've considered sending men to these cities to see who has not made the pilgrimage and to collect the non-Muslim poll tax, the jizya, from Muslims who haven't made the pilgrimage, from everyone possessing the means who has not performed it. They are not Muslims. They are not Muslims. That's section P75:17. So that's not performing the Hajj when able to.
Before you go on, Sanjev asked, he said, tell me more about Surah 9, how to find on Google about which paragraph you were exactly talking about. So that might have been a little while ago, but I think he's asking about, where does this occur in 9? And
9.5. So I mentioned 9.5, which is the verse that abrogates all peace agreements and all treaties. Look for the tafsir of 9.5. And of course, last week I discussed 9.29.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll copy and paste it. 9.5. Yeah, I mean, really, in its context, it's talking about how to subdue the disbelievers, and there's specific.
Yeah.
Oh, it's too long to put in there. All right. I've exceeded the text. Okay.
Yeah, let's have a look at Tafsir Sahih Bukhari. This is the Fath al-Bari. So the Tafsir Bukhari, Sahih Bukhari is the finest, most authentic, most reliable and acknowledged collection of hadith. Fath al-Bari is the most revered commentary on Bukhari. There are hundreds of commentaries that were written on Bukhari. The Fath al-Bari is the premier one. It's the most respected one. And he says here on Bukhari Hadith 25, I've been commanded to fight the people until, and Allah says, if they turn in repentance and establish a prayer and pay zakat, let them go their way. In other words, if they become Muslims, and he refers here to verse 9.5. He says that Hadith 25 of Bukhari relates to verse 9.5. Right? And it says here, I've been commanded to fight the people until they testify that there's no deity of worship except Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and they establish the prayer and they pay zakat. If they do that, their lives and property are protected. So this is again confirmed in the Fath al-Bari. This is a collaborative effort between Medina University and Al-Azhar University. So the two finest Islamic universities on earth got together to write this new English translation of the Fath al-Bari. So the people of innovation are not disbelievers as long as they declare the Tawhid and accept the Sharia as revelation. So the Sharia is considered as revelation from Allah.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand from the hadith that whoever restrains from declaring Tawheed, in other words, that Allah is a singular God and not the Trinity, this is a denial of the Trinity, should be fought.
Oh, wow. Listen, not looking good, is it really? Not looking good.
Yeah, this is constant. Let's look at another one from there. The intent of the jizya is so that they would be coerced towards Islam. So until they enter Islam or accept what will lead them to Islam, it's just overwhelming. The evidence is just overwhelming. Let's look at the Muqtasar al-Qaduri, or whatever, however you say that. Lying to non-Muslims, cheating them, and backbiting them might become permissible in certain circumstances, as may killing them. The Muslim is not to lose sight. However, the Muslim is not to lose sight of Islamic injunctions. One may not be nice to people at the expense of compromising Islamic principles. So yes, be nice to non-Muslims, don't kill them, don't cheat them, except if it overrides your Islamic principles, in which case murder them, enslave them, lie to them, conquer them. Your thoughts on this?
It's just such a beautiful religion. I can't understand why they don't tell us all this stuff. I mean, why are they hiding it?
Turkey wants to revive the Islamic or Turkish Ottoman Empire by 2023, I believe, or something. And then they're also giving a platform to the Muslim Brotherhood in Turkey. So I see this as something we need to learn about now, quick.
No, okay, so 9/11 was the opening shot in a 21-year plan by Al-Qaeda. Now, the head of Al-Qaeda at the time and the subsequent head of Al-Qaeda were both Muslim Brotherhood members. Osama was a Muslim Brotherhood member, as was his follow-up. Now, in 1924, the caliphate was abolished by Ataturk, and the Muslim Brotherhood was established in 1928 with a 100-year goal of re-establishing the caliphate in 2028. The aim of Osama bin Laden was to attempt to create an uprising within 21 years from 9/11. That would be by next year. Right now, he's a couple of years off, but he was up to stage 6. He had a 7-phase plan, three-year steps, three-year phases in 7 phases, 21 years from 9/11, right? And so they were very much on track up to stage 5, late stage 5, early stage 6. They were very much on track according to the plans written by Osama bin Laden. So yeah, they want to establish a caliphate by latest 2028.
But hold on a minute, let me get this right. So really, Islam wants to rule the world and it's been making plans for world domination? No way.
Yeah, it's exactly what it wants to do. So remember, the caliphate must be worldwide. They must fight everyone until only religion for Allah remains, so Islam. Let's continue here. So say, O mankind, I'm the messenger of Allah to you all. That's the whole world, okay? The Prophet said, even if Moses were alive on the earth today, Moses would have no option but to follow Muhammad.
Sure.
Right, so let's continue. So Shafi is the founder of the Shafi school of jurisprudence, and he wrote his book on Sharia. This is another Sharia manual. It's called the Risala. Slay the polytheists wherever you find them. Lie in ambush for them everywhere. Fight those who do not believe in Allah and do not practice Islam. Those who have been given the book, that's Jews and Christians, until they pay the jizya and have been humbled. Quran 9:29. He says the apostle, that's Muhammad, said, I shall continue to fight the unbelievers until they say there is no God but Allah. So yeah, and if they do, then they shall be secured their blood and property. So Umar accepted the tradition and collected the jizya on the basis of the Quranic communication until they pay the jizya out of hand and have been humbled, Quran 9:29, on the basis of the Quran, which states that the unbelievers should be fought until they accept Islam.
They're in a perpetual state of war then. This isn't something that we've done. It's not foreign policy, right? They're in a perpetual state of war.
If we schedule a session just to discuss jihad, I can explain all of this, the basis of where this comes from. I can explain jihad in detail. one episode should suffice just to explain exactly how jihad works, what the laws
Yeah,
are.
I think we need to know about that. I really do.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is definitive. This is quite clear. There's no confusion here. So the army's treatment of the disbelievers. Now that's interesting. Again, we're talking about, this is Muslim international law, Kitab al-Siyar al-Sagir, right? Written by whoever this dude is, and this Shabani, sorry, another important scholar in Islam. And again, they're talking about the jizya and dhimmis under military doctrine. So if an ambush is made against the disbelievers without inviting them to Islam, it makes no difference. So in other words, it's a sin if they attack you without first inviting you to Islam, but if they do, it's okay. It's not a problem. So they speak of guaranteed citizens, the dhimma. They speak of the territory of war, which is non-Muslim lands, in other words, where you live. And they speak of the territory of disbelief. In other words, when people defy the Muslims, then that territory becomes territory of disbelief, and it must be subdued. And they speak of the people of rebellion. That's you, because you are rebelling against God. And people of rebellion must be fought, mustn't they? So, and of course, they must be fought by the people of justice. Now, guess who the people of justice are?
The Muslim.
That's the mafia. Sorry, the Muslims. My bad. Where I get that?
I like how we keep seeing this same theme over and over again, that, you know, there's laws, but there's no penalty if you don't obey the law.
I know. So let's see. The prohibition of warlike operations during the sacred months has been abrogated. This is verse 9:5. Slay the polytheists wherever you find them. And when the sacred months have passed, slay the polytheists wherever you find them. Right? That is Quran 9:5. So they're telling us here in this book on international law, Islamic law, that the prohibition of warlike operations during the sacred months has been abrogated. So let's look at Qurtubi. Now this Qurtubi is lovely. There's 20 volumes, I think, of his work. I've only got one. They've not all been translated, I believe, but only one is available without having to buy the whole collection or something. I've only found the one, but Qurtubi, the nice thing about his tafsir, this guy just lays it out bluntly. Man, his stuff is nice. I wish I had more of his work. So Tafsir al-Qurtubi, the classic commentary on the Holy Quran, they will have disgrace in this world and in the next world. So in other words, the Muslims must punish you in this world, and Allah will punish you in the next world. And Qatada reports that the word disgrace refers to killing in the case of the Harbi. Guess what a Harbi is? That is someone who is fighting against Islam. That's you, because you didn't accept Islam. So disgrace in this world. So notice how they whitewash the Quran, how they whitewash the tafsir, how they whitewash their message. They say disgrace in this world. They mean killing. You are a Harbi. Okay? And jizya in the case of the dhimmi. So if you submit, you pay jizya. And if you don't submit, they kill you.
Wow. This is not looking good.
Religion of peace. How do you spell peace? Is it P-I-S? Another one? So
Smashed to smithereens kind of pieces.
So as for cursing unbelievers in general, without specifying anyone, there is no disagreement about doing that. Since Malik reported a statement with an isnad going back to people used to curse the unbelievers in Ramadan. Our scholars added, whether or not they are dhimmis, so it is okay for Muslims to curse unbelievers. This is not mandatory, but it is permitted if someone does it, because that's us, we deny the truth and we are hostile towards the faith and its people. So the same applies to anyone who commits acts of disobedience, like drinking wine and consuming usury and other such things. So we are to be cursed by the Muslims. They are not mandatory, but it is permitted, and certainly probably rewarded if they have an entirely negative.
Well, this explains a lot of the material that's out there across the Middle East, the anti-Semitic sort of educational textbooks, the lingo you hear. It makes a lot of sense.
Oh, no, it gets, yeah, this gets darker. The deeper you go, the darker and uglier it gets. It's filthy. Islamic texts are filthy. So as for those who blah, 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 what they say is, though, as for those from whom harm is feared. Okay, so when harm is feared, if they think you might do something, right, in respect of planning, advice, and monetary support, if they are captured, the ruler can choose between 5 options. You can kill the captured person, right? You can do an act of goodwill. You can ransom that person. You can enslave them, or you can agree that they become a dhimmi in return for paying jizya.
Such humiliation. That's that's all I see about with this whole thing is to humiliate, subjugate, and profit from getting taxes off of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the ruler basically is the ultimate authority here. It's not even a command from Allah. The ruler can just do whatever's most convenient for him.
If
Yeah.
Satan wanted to rule the world physically, it would look like the caliphate, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, this is anti-Christian. This is anti-Christian to the core. I mean, where is this religion of peace? I mean, it's religion of, if you mispronounce the word P-I-S, fill in your own letter. But if you mispronounce that, yeah, then you'll get peace. But otherwise, no. Let's look at Tabari again. So in practice, payment of these taxes amounted to an acknowledgement of social inferiority. Right? Dhimmis are a mark of their social and religious degradation and second-class citizenship compared with the Muslims. Poll tax is a favor that the Muslims do for their non-Muslim subjects, one for which you should be grateful.
Oh, yes. I'm always grateful when people take my money.
That's so in direct opposition to the Torah. God allowed foreigners to dwell in the land, and they were meant to be treated equally.
Well, you saw that little tafsir, that seerah that I led with, which gives this false message to young Muslim minds. It's been contradicted by every single Islamic source. Let's have a look. What is the money spent on? So this is like, I got my final slide, then I'll skip over to another manual. So what is the money spent on? Let's have a look. Unlawful uses include building a church, purchasing lamps for a church, because this assists in disobedience to Allah. The same is true of an endowment for printing the Torah or the New Testament, which is invalid because the Jews and Christians have altered the Bible and they've added spurious or false material. It is not permissible to print their scriptures because doing so is to participate in their disobedience to Allah.
Wow. This is where they get it from. This is where they get it from. This is why Erdogan would not allow any church in Turkey to be rebuilt, repaired, or renovated.
Yeah, that's the dhimmi laws.
Wow.
Remember last week I discussed those laws where you may not build churches, you may not repair churches. Those are the dhimmi laws.
But they're merciful because they don't just kill us outright.
Yeah.
If they're doing this now without the actual establishment of a caliphate, some of these leaders already do this too. They really humiliate Christians and Jews in their countries.
The Dark Ages was caused by Islam. I mean, that's something we can discuss at another time, and I can go into that. But the Dark Ages is not a result of Visigoth invasion of Europe. It's because of Islam. I mean, that's the history's been completely rewritten. But Islam is responsible for all of this. So I'll pause this particular, I'll stop here and I'll move to a different source. But yeah, any questions or comments so far?
Wasn't it called the Beneficent Quran? Right. It benefits the Muslim, doesn't it? The beneficent.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing and just change my screen again. I've got to move to another screen. I've got to share a different screen now.
Yeah, some of these leaders do implement these laws in their nations and treat the Christians and the Jews, the minorities, really in derogatory manner. But they get this from these books that they believe in, that together represent what Islam is. You see, Islam isn't just what the Quran says.
The Quran is, look, I don't know how to say this. The Quran's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Ignore it. Get rid of it. Don't even think about it. Don't talk about it ever again. It is irrelevant.
To me, it's like the Quran is only relevant.
Right? It is only relevant in how it is examined through the lens of the tafsir, the sirah, and especially the sharia. The Quran is only relevant in light of the sharia. Remember I mentioned there are 4 levels of knowledge in Islam. The lowest level is called the Ibadah, Islam for the masses, the plain literal meaning. This is the lowest level, and all Muslims are on the lowest level unless you're part of the ulama, which is called the Ishara level. Then you've got 2 levels above that, the Lataif, which is the plural of Latifa, and you've got another level above that called the Haqaiq. So all the idiots in the comment sections that we meet are all at the lowest possible level, the Islam for the masses, the Ibadah.
Yeah. You see, that's what I'm thinking. The Quran is the mascot, is the thing, the book they put out in front and say, we believe everything's written in here.
Yeah.
If it's not written in here, we disregard it, even the various hadith, right?
Remember,
But
the
that
Quran
is
is
the trick.
abrogated.
That is the deception.
Yeah. Remember, the Quran is, most of it's abrogated. The hadith have abrogated the Quran, right? The hadith have very much abrogated. We discussed that 2 weeks ago.
Right, yeah.
And not only that, the Sharia is the final interpretation. And even though the words on the page might say, do not kill the Christians, remember, I spoke of how that can be reinterpreted and how that can mean do not kill them on Tuesdays, but Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays and Mondays are just fine.
Oh, this the whole thing about Quran onlyism. It's a deception, and a lot of people fall for it. Even Muslims, if you're out there and this is news to you, check out the resources that Lloyd has provided. Read it. Do your own homework. I say this over and over. Do your own homework.
See, the Quran is important in Islam in that it's like their version of Jesus on earth in a sense. Okay, Muhammad is trying to replace Jesus, fine, but this is like a divine entity that has come to earth, and this, when they have a Quran, this is like their connection to the divine, because this is the holy book of Allah. We have Jesus in our hearts. They've got this book that connects them to the divine. That's how it's important to them. The stuff that's in it, it's irrelevant. It's completely, the Sharia is where the tafsir is where the Quran is interpreted and discussed. And look, I mean, the Quran is 150,000 words. Now you've got one verse, 929, that's like 50 words long. I can literally bring dozens of books that go at length, each of them hundreds of pages long, which discuss how to apply the 929 alone, with hundreds of laws.
Gerard Perry, Lloyd, and that just made a comment which is spot on. Think about Afghanistan. What the hell was with Afghanistan? Gerard Perry said the Taliban did when they were in power. They made non-Muslims wear distinctive clothing.
That's part of it.
See, they're already implementing these rules. They're doing it right now.
Yeah, watch last week's show. I discussed that. That's called the Zunnar, right? Now, yeah, I mean, Thaddeus, thoughts from you?
Yeah, this is all really great stuff. On the Quran only stuff, that was our first show, so be sure to check that one out on my channel.
Right, the Islam's apologists.
Yeah, basically they're anyone who denies the other material is an apostate. Yet online you find all these people at least pretending to deny the other material. And as Lloyd said, this is all part of the distraction technique. I mean, some of them may have actually rejected the other material in their own mind because they can't take the crap that's in it, and they don't believe any of that crap, but they don't want to not be Muslim. But for a lot of them, it's just a distraction technique. They know that as long as you're attacking the Quran, you're not getting at any of their core beliefs. So they're going to keep talking about, oh, just give me the Quran, give me the Quran. And then you can, you can say, well, this verse says blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, I know it doesn't. It means the exact opposite because the meaning isn't what you think it is.
Yeah, well, here's another verse. Here's a contradictory verse. You're like, well, you see, there's a contradiction. No, there's no contradictions in the Quran.
Yeah, they do this all the time. It's a spinning tactic. It gets you spinning so you get tired and you give up.
Yeah, that's why I focus exclusively on the Sharia and the other texts. The Quran is an irrelevance. It's a distraction. It is really only of value in terms of how it is expressed, its exegesis through these other documents.
Peter said, why are Muslims using abrogated verses in Muslim Christian debates? And I think that's pretty easy. They'll use anything that they think can benefit them. I've had Muslims quote random texts that were written by mystics that had nothing to do with Islam or Christianity or anything else, but because they happened to say something about Muhammad that they thought was favorable, they like quote it as if it's some sort of authoritative source.
Yeah. So let me go on. Let me finish this. Okay, you guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So on the right, I'm not going to do much of this, but on the right, I just want to show you, this is part of a new series I'm busy working on. It's called Muhammad, the Seal of the Prophets. And yeah, anyway, so that's what I'm busy working on. And I want to show one small piece. Muslims are not to sell Islamic books to non-Muslims. This is from the Sharia, this is from the Reliance of the Traveler, the world's most famous and popular Sharia manual. If a Quran is being purchased for someone, it is obligatory that the person be Muslim. we as non-Muslims are not supposed to be reading their books. The same is true of books of hadith and books containing the words and deeds of early Muslims. And Quran in this context means any work that contains some of the Quran, even a slight amount.
We're not allowed to read any of their texts, and now thanks to
No.
the internet and this blow up explosion of people exposing Islam online,
Yep.
you know, what can they do about it? Especially
And-
with stuff you're showing us.
Yeah, and of course it says here that the Sharia of the Prophet, so Muhammad took the essentials of all the preceding religious laws, purified them of distortions, and then he perfected Islam by perfecting the Sharia. And then when Jesus descends for the second time, the law of Muhammad will be revealed to Jesus through the tongue of Gabriel, and Jesus will acknowledge the reality of the Sharia of Muhammad. And these are the two. Now, this is from an expert. This is cool. This is from Sharani, this guy here, the Tabakat of Sharani. So when you read that, this man was an expert on the Sharia, and he writes that there are 6 major takeaways from the Sharia, 6 major lessons to be learned. Let's look at 2 of them. One, that necessities permit the forbidden. Any Islamic rule can be broken if you need to for the benefit of Islam and the Muslims, and the aims justify the means. Aims are more important than means. The ends justify the means. You figure out where that's going to go.
This is an outrage. I mean, so much destruction has happened in the spread of Islam throughout the centuries, and people are still without a clue about it, you know? I was just a handful of little rebels, a handful of misguided, disenfranchised radicals, you know?
No, I need to do a show on jihad with you guys to explain jihad in detail. This will clarify, it'll dispel any myth and answer every question. That exists. It's this book that we're looking at here on the left-hand side, this one is definitive. This one has a lot of detail. It's really well written. First, let's look at what the meaning of jihad is, because it's relevant to, now I've blacked out this section because it's crap, for the simple reason that it doesn't exist in the original Arabic, and the author, the translator, added this in. And he's using a weak hadith, but he added this in to basically whitewash this whole thing. So I took it out because it's not in the original Arabic. But you can look, I mean, I've linked the books, read it, check it for yourself. Section 09.0, Jihad. Jihad means to make war against non-Muslims, and is etymologically derived from the word mujahada, signifying warfare to establish Islam. The scriptural basis for jihad, prior to scholarly consensus, is Quranic verses, fighting is prescribed for you, Quran 2:216. Slay them wherever you find them, Quran 4:89, and fight the idolaters, that's you, utterly, Quran 9:36. This is the Reliance of the Traveler, the world's most famous Sharia manual, and it says here, and such hadiths as the one related by Bukhari and Muslim, that the Prophet said, I've been commanded to fight people until they testify that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. If they say it, they have saved their blood and their possessions from me. That is the formal Sharia definition of jihad.
India has experienced jihad. Sanjeev made the comment, Mughal goons, the criminals, first attacked Hindus who were living peacefully in Afghanistan. Find the actual map of India when Muhammad was alive. I'd like to look that up.
They lost at least 18 million people. Yeah, it's a genocide. 18 million people we know of. Yeah.
No,
so let's finish this. So now I'm just going to focus exclusively on this Sharia manual. This is the Hidayah. I mentioned it, I introduced it last week, and I gave the links to all of these books that I used last week in the comments. In the last show, you can download every single one of these books. So we're talking about chapter 8 of Jizyat or capitation tax. Jizyat or capitation tax is of 2 kinds, and the second kind is that which the Imam himself imposes, where he conquers infidels, right? He conquers infidels. And so this tells us immediately that this is about warfare to impose Islam, in alignment with what we have learned here about what jihad is, warfare to enforce Islam on people. Let's have a look. Capitation tax is due only in lieu of destruction. Destruction meaning death. They mean death. Okay, that is to say, it is imposed as a return from the mercy and forbearance shown by the Muslims as a substitute for the death or destruction which is due upon infidels. So in other words, destruction, your death is due for disbelief, but they give you the mercy of paying half of your wages per year to the Muslims. Capitation tax serves as an aid to the troops. In other words, it funds additional warfare against non-Muslims. Capitation tax is due in lieu of assistance with person and property. In other words, you are not helping them prosecute their war to spread the caliphate, and thus you have to fund that effort. So it is imposed upon the Kitabis, these are the people of the book, that's Jews and Christians. Capitation tax is to be imposed because this is mentioned in the Quran. And Shafi, now Shafi, this is the man who founded the Shafi school of jurisprudence. Imam Shafi argues that destruction is incurred by all infidels. So just the fact of not becoming a Muslim, not accepting Islam, you are meant to be killed by the Muslims. And in consideration of a capitation tax, so subject to the original penalty, which is destruction. So you're given the consideration of paying money, okay, rather than the original penalty, which is your death. Notice the other destruction. When you destroy someone, like just call it what it is, killing, murder. And also notice it is lawful to make slaves of the idolaters. Remember, the Sharia can never change. This cannot be changed. This is the law. So I'm not going to read every word of every page. It's just I'm going to go through. But if a Muslim army subdues an infidel territory before any tax is established, the inhabitants, together with their wives and children, are all plunder, and the property of the state, as it is lawful to reduce to slavery all non-Muslims. So, and the infidelity, in other words, you're an infidel because you're not part of Allah, you're not associated with Allah, is also an atrocious because they have apostatized and they've become infidels after having been led into the way of faith. Now they're talking about apostates, and they've been made acquainted with after they've been made acquainted with the excellence of Islam, they leave. And it says here that the apostates must embrace the faith again or be put to death. Shafi holds that it is lawful to make slaves of the idolaters again. He says of Arabia, but fine. But it is lawful to make slaves. And upon being conquered, they become public property. So people become public property. If a Muslim army conquers the idolaters of Arabia or the apostates, their wives and children are plunder. Now notice last week I read about how they said this applied in Arabia and then it applied to the whole world. So watch last week's episode. Siddiq made slaves of the women and children of the whatever tribe, and then they apostatized, and he divided those slaves among the troops. He killed such men as did not return to Islam for the reasons before assigned. Apostates are murdered. And the term apostate applies not only to individuals, but also to whole tribes, so whole peoples. Capitation tax is a substitute for destruction, and with respect to us, it is a substitute for aid in the wars of the faith, holy wars.
Wow. There's nothing else that fits the bill of this Antichrist that the Bible talks about the end times.
I would agree
because the beast also imposes taxes on the glorious kingdom. Who else does that?
Islam.
No one.
Islam fits the bill for every evil thing you can think of. Yeah, Thaddeus, you look a little dumbstruck there.
Yeah, I mean, this is just some crazy stuff. Going back to a little bit where they basically said no one's allowed to read the Muslim books if they're not a Muslim. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want anyone to read this stuff. And then all this great detail on how you're supposed to impose this tax. And, it's the merciful tax because what we really deserve is to be put to death. But if it's beneficial to the overlords to get our money instead, they can do that.
You know that there was a video that Bill Warner did, and it shows the map on political Islam, and he talks about the expansion of Islam and how it spread. This is why, right? Because they've got all this stuff to back up what they did.
Do you want me to play that video?
Yes, please. I think for those of you who haven't seen it, Bill Warner put together, and I know you and Bill Warner know one another, Brother Lloyd. He put together a presentation to show you what it looked like compared to the Christian Crusades. So if you've actually got that clip, I think it's really awesome to just watch, because it says a lot just by looking.
Okay, let me do that now. So I'm just going to full screen my screen. This is about 4 minutes long, 3 minutes and 57 seconds. I'm just going to play it.
A lot of sunken ships. There was a lot of ships sailing around. When they go down, the economy goes down. So from this data, we know a lot. And this, in particular, the database of ancient documents gives us 548 battles that Islam fought against the classical world. This is all new information. I've talked with people who consider themselves history buffs, and they go, well, let's see, battles of Islam against Europe. Let's see, we've got invasion, we have Tours, we got the invasion of Gibraltar, we've got Lepanto, Gates of Vienna, collapse of, okay, that's 5. You talk to a historian, and those are the 5 battles they can scratch up. And I remind you, you can have all of these slides if you just send me an email for it. Okay, what does this new data show us? It shows us this. See the white spots? They're brand new battles. They're going to change to red. These are new. Every time, we're going to show you this all over again. Every tick is 20 years. The new battles for that 20-year period come up in white. Then they fade to red to show you the history. So white's what's happening right now. Red has happened. Let's see how these 548 battles act out over. We're going to watch in 70 seconds. We're going to watch 1,200 years of conquest. Look how fast this is happening. Bam! Here comes. You didn't know France was hammered that hard, did you? You heard of Tours. Watch what's happening in Spain, in the islands. Now, many of these raids or battles, if they're at the coastline, are slave raids. The slaving that took place in here was extensive and went on and on. All of this work is also happening now then. We're now into the golden age of Baghdad. This is the punishment that's being handed out to Christians everywhere. In Spain, after one battle, there were knights' heads were cut off and they made a pile so high that a man on horseback couldn't see over them. All of the European civilization in North Africa is now gone. Now, pretty soon, and by the way, there will be a period of time, and you can see the clock running up here, there will be a brief blip of 5 battles that occur in North Africa, the Barbary Pirate Wars. We're on there, okay? Now then, Byzantium has fallen. Now then, Eastern Europe is being hammered. Notice that it is relentless. It doesn't stop. This is the history that you're never told about. This is the history that explains how all of this came about. Now then, they're getting slower because Islam is becoming weaker. Corruption. All empires collapse from the inside ultimately. Okay. I say that what caused the collapse of classical civilization was not the invading German barbarian tribes. I say that classical civilization was destroyed by Islam.
Okay. So everyone heard that?
Yeah, that's basically the very clip that I was talking about. Thank you for showing that. What do you think, friends? Who watched that? Who just saw that? That's what it looks like. That's what they did in history. It's already happened. And the jihad hasn't stopped. So I think we need to know this other side of Islam that we haven't seen or we're not familiar with. We need to understand what they really think, what they're really planning on doing. And biblically speaking, this to me is what the Antichrist system is going to look like, because it comes with 10 nations, and it's going to sound conspiratorial to some people out there, but while Lloyd is doing his presentation, I'm mindful of what the scriptures say, and it's shocking, you know. So I'm really learning a lot from this myself. It's helping me.
Yeah, I prepared a set of slides. I've actually prepared a show discussing the Crusades. A couple of weeks ago, I finished it. So that's something I could also do too. And also, there's a number of people in the comments that are mentioning that Khadija was Catholic and this person was Catholic. Just the same way they lie about the Jews and they lie about the Talmud, people lie about the Catholic Church. Now, I'm not Catholic, but I have seen lots of people speak exactly the same way about Judaism and the Torah and Jews, the very same way they speak about the Catholic Church. And when I have discussions with some of these people, they know nothing about Catholic doctrine, right? And it's really odd that they claim that Khadija was Catholic. I'd love to see the proof of that, and I'd love to see lots of proof, because these are just these interesting throwaway terms that people throw out. Because think about it, who wants to undermine the church, and which is the most powerful church, the best known? The Catholic Church. If the Catholic Church falls, who's going to step into the gap?
Yeah. This
Nobody.
is what I've been saying recently in some of my videos. I got attacked by different people because I'm trying to express to them, as an ex-Muslim, this is how Islam looks at the Pope. No. He represents Christendom. If they can do away with him or have him to submit to Islam, bring him under subjection, Islam has conquered Christianity, it's conquered the Christian West. And the sooner we understand that, the better we are prepared to deal and confront. The onslaught is coming, you guys. The Islamic onslaught is coming, and if we're not prepared, if we're uneducated about it, history is going to repeat itself.
No, the onslaught's already happening. In 1967, after the defeat that the Israelis gave to the Arab League during that war, the Russians were humiliated and the Arabs were humiliated, and the Russians and the Arabs decided to take action and decided to go to war because they realized that they couldn't fight and win a conventional war. So they decided to do what's called fourth generation warfare. This effectively is guerrilla warfare, low intensity guerrilla warfare with short, small episodes of intense violence. But the bulk of the war, 95% of it, is purely just propaganda driven warfare, ideological warfare. The Saudis since 1967 have funded, the Saudis in 1967 started the biggest propaganda campaign in history. They were spending 3 times more to fund and spread Islam and to infiltrate and to get their people into positions and especially into universities than Russia spent at the height of the Cold War. Russia was spending approximately $1 billion per year to promote communism. And you've seen communism has popped up. It's become a massive thing everywhere. And the Saudis were spending at least 3 times that. Just the Saudis alone was spending 3 times that. We have not heard much about this. We're not discussing it. Where is that money going? We know that billions of dollars have gone into universities. But the Saudis alone, the Qataris are spending similar amounts of money. The Pakistanis are doing it. Man, even Kazakhstan's doing it. Kazakhstan is spending tens of millions of dollars. This money is going to schools, universities, churches, think tanks, government agencies. They are fighting a propaganda warfare. It is live right now.
I'm just making a comment to somebody calling themselves forced religion and cults are from hell. This is another one of those false narratives that goes around like a mantra.
The guy's a twit. I mean, I've read his comments. The guy's an idiot. Like, he speaks of a monk called Waraka. Fine. So which religion was this monk part of? Specifically, specifically, which sect was he part of? You know, so the lack of detail, you find these broad strokes. Broad strokes are always a lie when you come from these people. Broad strokes are always a lie. Be specific, be detailed. And if the Templars and Crusades have done bad things, yeah, well, war is hell. That's what happens in war. But we do not have any Christian doctrine. Please show me the doctrine of jihad from the New Testament. Show me the Sharia of Jesus. Show me the Sharia of the New Testament. I'd love to see the equivalent if you can, please. And the Templars and the Roman Catholic Church have done some ice. Dude, you're talking out of your backside, right? You're an idiot. So those are my comments. That would be against Christian doctrine. Again, this is an attempt to destroy the Roman Catholic Church because the church at this point needs to be defended, needs to be restored, not destroyed. And but that's a whole different discussion. But again, this is probably is Muslim. Those are my thoughts. Anyway, moving on. Let's finish this. Those are my thoughts. I know I say pretty, but look, I mean, I've done the research work, and
yeah, I've done some of this too, and it really is frustrating because, you know, like this narrative is a mantra, although it's false. Many people believe it. You know why? Because it's spread so often, and the more you lie about something, it becomes accepted as truth. So I think I'll have to talk about it again. Mention it, even the connection with the Shriners. People talk about the Illuminati, the Freemasons, but who's at the top? It's the Shriners, and they give their
Islamic
allegiance to Allah.
I mean, look, this guy, false religion and culture are from hell. I mean, and true. And your statements are from right out of your backside. So anyway, moving on. Let's finish this, because he needs to also focus on the content rather than talking about unrelated stuff. No, you're not smart. You're not intelligent. Anyway, capitation tax is a substitute for destruction. Let's go on here. So capitation tax may be imposed on those where they are capable of labor. The Nazis did that. That's interesting. Fascinating. A monk is not to be destroyed where he does not mix with mankind, and capitation tax with respect to them would be for the purpose of warding off destruction. So a tax from the monks is so that they won't be murdered as well, right? Let's have a look. Likewise, capitation tax, which is the consideration for protection money. Secondly, capitation tax is a species of punishment inflicted upon infidels on account of their infidelity, whence it is termed jizya, which is derived from jizya, meaning retribution. This is a temporal punishment of infidelity. So it's the punishment in this life from the Muslims in lieu of them killing you. And also, capitation tax is a substitute for aid to the Muslims. That's for the war effort, for the jihad. Let me go on. Capitation tax is a punishment inflicted upon infidels for their obstinacy in infidelity. It must be exacted in a mortifying and humiliating manner. Remember the guy who translated the Reliance of the Traveler said it must be collected with respect. No, it must be exacted in a mortifying and humiliating manner. According to one tradition, the collector is to seize him by the throat, is to seize the payer by the throat and shake him, saying, "Pay your tax, dummy." Right? Therefore, it is evident that capitation tax is a punishment. Secondly, capitation tax is a substitute for destruction, a substitute for your death. It is a substitute for destruction because infidels are liable to be put to death. So let's go on. This section called Institutes, Chapter 8, and the construction of churches or synagogues is unlawful. This is forbidden in the traditions. Dhimmis should not be permitted to celebrate the tokens of infidelity. That means they cannot have their celebrations be seen. They cannot have crosses that are visible. They cannot sing their hymns to be heard. They cannot have their festivals outside. Dhimmis are to be prohibited from constructing churches or synagogues. And the case supposes a city or country conquered by the Muslims. I thought Islam doesn't conquer places, but apparently it does, according to this.
Oh, and conquers them defensively.
True, like we just saw, like it conquered the whole of North Africa, Middle East, and Europe. Yeah, defensively. Yeah. Do to others before they do unto you, I guess. In the territory of Arabia, dhimmis are prohibited from constructing churches or synagogues either in cities or villages, because the Prophet has said 2 religions cannot be professed together in the peninsula of Arabia. So there's a distinction between Muslims and dhimmis in both dress and of equipment. It is therefore not allowable for dhimmis to ride upon horses or to use armor or to use the same saddles. They have to use saddles made of wood and wear the same garments or the headdresses as Muslims. And they have to wear the kiftij openly on the outside of their clothes. So that's a sign. It's a wooden cord, a woolen cord or belt, which the dhimmis wear around their waist. So basically the same that the Nazis did to the Jews. They have to wear signs.
Right. I was just thinking about that. Yes, yeah. Exactly the same.
That Muhammad got from the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. I mean, actually, I'm just going to bring this up for one moment. I'm just going to go here to Bing, and I'm just going to go Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. Okay, I just typed in Grand Mufti of Jerusalem into Bing. I'm going to go to images. And here we have the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem having a discussion with Hitler, saluting his Nazi death's head troops. If you look at these fezzes, they have death's head on them. He created the biggest SS division of them all during World War II. He was promoted. He volunteered for the Nazi army. He became a general. He raised 30,000 troops in Europe and apparently something like 2 million in North Africa. This is him giving the Nazi salute. That's him shaking hands with Hitler. That's him sitting with Hitler. This is him with Himmler, the number 2 man in the Nazi army. So Hitler's number 2 man, Himmler. This is him with Himmler again. That's him with Hitler. So yeah, so this is what you find when you bring up the Grand Mufti. He was the man who gave Hitler a lot of interesting Islamic ideas which were incorporated into Nazism. Now, Muslims are to be held, okay, so if they ride upon any animals, okay, they are to provide themselves a saddle like the panniers of an ass. So they have to ride in, they have to be humbled or humiliated. Muslims are to be held in honor, contrary to dhimmis who are not to be held in honor. They are not saluted first or greeted first. And if there were no outward signs to distinguish Muslims from dhimmis, they might accidentally be treated with the same respect, which is not allowed. So they are not to treat you with the same respect. This is not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And it is to be observed that the insignia incumbent upon them is to wear a woolen rope or cord tied around the waist and not a silken belt. Not to wear fineries, they have to be humiliated. It is requisite that the wives of dhimmis be kept separate from the wives of Muslims, both on public roads and also in the baths. And it is also requisite that a mark be set upon their dwellings, their houses. Dhimmis are not permitted to ride at all, except in cases of absolute necessity. And he must alight, in other words, get off his horse or donkey whenever he sees any Muslims assembled, and he has to walk them. Dhimmis of the higher orders must also be prohibited from wearing rich garments. Submitting to capitation tax and submission to the contract of subjection is merely a substitute for belief. So because you won't believe, you have to pay. A contract of subjection is dissolved only by the zimmi absconding to the territory of the infidels. In other words, managing to run away. And that is, he would become a virtual apostate if you did that, and you would forfeit the protection and privileges of a believer. And the consequence, blah, 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 is mentioned a little further on. So you know what happens if you break the contract. You're killed. A dhimmi, upon breaking his contract of subjection, stands in the same predicament as an apostate. He's condemned to death. If the zimmi is made captive, he is a slave, contrary to the case of an apostate who, if he repents not, is put to death.
Right. Isn't that what they did to the Jews in Arabia, the Treaty of Hudaybah?
Yeah, this is,
Apparently.
but look, this is, I'm just repeating myself at this point. That is,
There's so much. It's like, what do we do with this? We can't just say we're taking one little thing out of context. It is the context.
Yeah.
This is the context.
This just goes on and on the same way. It goes on and on like this,
Yeah, you say you're repeating yourself, but at the same time, it's important because if you just quote it one sentence from one source, they'll be like, "Oh, you took that out of context.
Exactly.
That's not what it means.
Yeah.
That guy's just a fringe idiot. Whatever excuse."
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so yeah. So of zakat is so the jizya is sometimes called zakat. It's not actually zakat, but it's sometimes called that in this book. Of zakat, twice as much is levied upon the property of Christians. So you pay double. So the jizya is at least double what Muslims pay in zakat. Okay. And it goes on. This is jizya, and name it whatever you please, jizyat or zakat. Okay. So they're taking double zakat, and zakat is incumbent upon women. Twice as much is taken from the women of that tribe as from the Muslims, right? It is capitation tax. So jizyat is sometimes called zakat. So but it's not the same amount. It's not the same zakat as what the Muslims pay. So let me just skip forward. Of the laws concerning apostates. So now you saw there's an overlap in this. We're now heading towards the end, the last few. So when a Muslim apostatizes from the faith, there are only two modes of repelling the sin of apostasy: death or Islam. Islam is preferable to death. It is not incumbent, since a call to the faith has already reached the apostate. Right? Anyway, so an apostate is imprisoned for 3 days. It only implies that if he requires a delay, so it only implies that if he requires a delay, 3 days may be granted him, okay? It doesn't mean that he has to be in prison for 3 days, right? Because God says in the Quran, or Allah says in the Quran, slay the unbelievers without any reserve of a delay of 3 days. The Prophet was also said, slay the man who changes his religion without mentioning anything concerning a delay. They are technically allowed and supposed to kill you immediately if you abandon Islam. Secondly, an apostate is an infidel enemy, so you become a dhimmi who has received a call to the faith, wherefore he may be slain instantly, upon the instant, without any delay. An apostate is termed on this occasion an infidel enemy because he is undoubtedly such and he is not protected. Hence it is proved, okay, so that he is an infidel enemy. So it is lawful to kill an apostate without making any attempt to recover him from apostasy. And they speak of this happens whether you're a free man or a slave. So slavery is a big thing. Remember, 70% of the Sharia relates to slavery. Nothing is incurred by the premature killing of an apostate. So if a Muslim woman becomes an apostate, she's not put to death, but is imprisoned, and she can be imprisoned there without food until she dies, right? Until she returns to the faith. Shafi maintains, that Shafi from the school of Shafi Fiqh, the founder, that she is put to death. It is a crime. So apostasy or not accepting Islam or leaving Islam is a crime of great magnitude. Therefore, it requires that its punishment be severe, namely death. So, yeah, whatever. I mean, so it just goes on. In the case of apostasy of men, the punishment is not deferred to a future date. It is requisite to repel their present wickedness, their becoming enemies to the faith, and they should be killed immediately. Because not being a Muslim is an incredibly wicked act. We are wicked people. And if you read, like if you look at the thing, the worst of beasts, the best of, worst of creatures, Muslims are the best of creatures, Christians are the worst of creatures. If you read the proper translation, it actually says we are the evil, we are the wickedness in the wilderness. So she refutes the right of God after having acknowledged blah, blah. A female apostate is compelled to return to the faith, whether she be free or whether she is a slave. It is elsewhere mentioned that a female apostate must be beaten daily with severity until she returns to the faith.
Lovely. Just
apostates, yeah. I mean, I'm nearly done here. We're just gonna do. So the argument of Hanifa, that's the Hanafi fiqh, the head of the Hanafi school of fiqh, upon his head is that an apostate is an infidel enemy, and it is in our hands until he be put to death. This circumstance proves that his right over his property is destroyed. If, however, he does not become a Muslim, but he's died or slain in his apostasy or abscond to a foreign country, the Qazi issues a decree of expatriation against him, and his infidelity then becomes confirmed and established. It's a decree concerning that he's part of a hostile country, and he may be then, any Muslim can then kill him, right? Let me just, because the wife of an apostate being a Muslim inherits of him, blah, blah, blah. Let me see. I just want to, there's one last item that I want to cover before I finish this. The argument of our doctors is that the apostate, by going to a foreign country, becomes an alien, and aliens are the same as the dead with respect to the laws of Islam. In the same manner as the power that ceases with the dead, a desertion to a foreign country amounts to death. So you are legally dead. And let me continue. A dhimmi dies without heirs, his property goes to all the Muslims. And I think I'm about to finish here.
This is so amazing. This is so much stuff. It's like so comprehensive.
An apostate is, in accordance to Hanifa, in the same predicament with a hostile infidel who comes into the Muslim territory without protection. In other words, in the past, if you walked into Muslim lands and you were non-Muslim and you didn't know, but you crossed their borders, then you are termed a hostile infidel. You are in the Muslim territory without protection, okay? And you are liable to be put to death because you're going from the Dar al-Harb, the land of war, into the land of Islam. Right, and if an apostate has carnal connection with a Christian female slave who has been his possession during his adherence to the faith, just to mention that slavery is a huge thing, and this slave produces a child. I mean, slavery is a massive thing in Islam. It's just constantly in the Sharia. If the apostate goes off with his property into a foreign country and the Muslim forces afterwards obtain possession of that property, such property is plunder and the right of the state. If an apostate deserts to a foreign country, leaving a slave in the Muslim territory, the Qazi decrees the slaves to belong to his son, and the son constitute the slave so that the son can inherit the slave. That is to say, now when they talk about when they go into a foreign country, that is to say, take it in war, in a military excursion against the people of that country. I thought they don't do that, but hey, it seems they do. And now the last couple of pages, we're about to finish. And notice that apostasy of a boy who is underage, okay, is also regarded according to Hanifa and Muhammad, and he may be compelled to return to the faith. He is not put to death, but he must be imprisoned. So they basically they mentioned the age of discretion or the years of discretion, basically someone between the ages of, I think, 9 and 12. They're not yet mature adult, but they're intelligent enough to understand certain things. So here you can be imprisoned. And when they say imprisoned, that doesn't mean they have to feed you. That doesn't mean they have to feed you. That means they starve you until you say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm a Muslim now. And that's where I finish.
Oh my goodness, that is so detailed. And the resources, they are shocking to me, but at the same time, they're not, because I'm like, well, what do I expect? I expect it to be very detailed, very sophisticated, hatred, totalitarianism. I mean, there's not a word for it. Islam cannot be compared to another system, if you like, It's on its own, it stands alone.
I want people to show me the Sharia of Christianity. Where is it? Please show me the book. Right? Throughout history, the world has never witnessed an ideal character like that of Muhammad. The fact is maintained in the glorious Quran. Right?
This is the monstrous religion, system, ideology.
I heard a Jew calling out at the top of his voice from the top of a fort in Mecca, "O company of Jews, tonight has risen a star under which Muhammad is to be born."
And look at this. That is absolutely an affront to the deity of Christ. They need to make him God.
Yeah, you are pregnant with the Lord of this people. As she was pregnant, she saw a light come forth from her. And here they mean that a light shone out of her private parts, okay? This is
Muhammad's mother.
Muhammad's mother, Amina. As she was pregnant with Muhammad, she saw a light come forth from her by which she could see the castles of Busra in Syria. That is about 260 kilometers away. I measured it on a map. I actually measured it on Google Earth. I physically measured the distance. It's about 262 kilometers away.
Oh my goodness.
That's some light there.
A light shone out of her vajayjay all the way to Syria. Yeah, this is Islam. She told us she was pregnant with him. A light went out from her, which illumined the castles of Busra and Syria. She had borne him with the least difficulty imaginable. When she bore him, he put his hands on the ground, lifting his head towards the heavens. He said, "I am what Abraham, my father, prayed for, and the good news of my brother Jesus." Muhammad is the good news of Jesus. This is the Sirah. Right? "I was with a brother of mine behind our tents, shepherding the lambs." This is Muhammad. He was shepherding the lambs. "Two men in white raiment came to me with a gold basin full of snow. They seized me. They opened up my belly. They extracted my heart and split it. They extracted a black drop from it and threw it away. Then they washed my organs, and then they inserted faith and goodness into me and closed me back up again."
This is absolutely antichrist. I don't know. It's like it makes me mad. I'm really upset. When I hear about this.
They were starving. They were poor. Muhammad, they were digging a trench. Muhammad struck a rock with his spade, a huge rock bigger than him, which turned into sand. Right, and then they were starving, and we had 3 kilograms of barley. We also had 1 lamb. I slaughtered the lamb, and then she thought the food would not be enough for everyone. How can so little food cater for 1,000 people?
Right, okay, another wannabe miracle, right? Trying to copy the miracles of Jesus.
So Muhammad spat into the cooking pot, and there were 1,000 guests. All of them ate till they left the food and went off. Our pot still bubbled as before, and the dough was being baked as before.
Has anyone heard this stuff before?
No.
No. Anyone?
Seriously, I can only... Fuck, there's so much of this stuff. There's so much of it.
Right, Leanne Trevor says, so could this just simply be the Antichrist? It doesn't have to be a single person. Yeah, it's a system. The way the Bible portrays this, it's a system. The Antichrist beast system is a combination of kingdoms. But I'm thinking, what's this going to look like, Lloyd, Thaddeus?
It's going to be
It's
like
going to look like Islamic Caliphate.
So
Yeah.
in one of Christ's promises, generally interpreted by Christians as referring to the miracle of the Pentecost and the Holy Ghost, there were nonetheless certain elements which did not fit that miracle and must be taken to refer to something else, something which had not yet been fulfilled. So he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that he shall speak. And this goes on, St. John 16:13, they're speaking of Muhammad. So the miracle of Pentecost is a reference to the coming of Muhammad.
Oh, blasphemy.
So according to Islamic tradition, Muhammad is none other than the mysterious Shiloh, to whom would be transferred in the latter days the spiritual authority of God, which until then had remained with the prerogatives of the Jews, Jesus himself having been the last prophet of the line of Judah. So the prophecy of Jacob, grandson of Abraham, that's Muhammad.
Oh, my word.
So this is the Sirah. The religion of all prophets is Islam. As we know, the infidels' familiarity with or ignorance of this appeal determined the way in which the Muslims should fight against them. Islamic writings, one who follows, so a Hanif in the Islamic writings is one who follows the original and true monotheistic religion, which is Islam, which is the religion of Abraham.
A comment, New and Learner says, Muhammad is the good news, but he brought more death and hatred.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Earlier, Jeremiah asked where he could obtain the sources that you're using.
Say again, please.
Jeremiah asked where you can get copies of your sources.
Oh no, this one. So these are multiple. So this is Martin Ling's Muhammad, his life based on the earliest sources, page 17. I'm also using Guillaume's Life of Muhammad. These are two various surahs. I've got about 15 different surahs. This one is a book called Prophet Muhammad in the Bible by Dr. S.M. Mohidin Habibi and Said Ansan Habibi, his son, I guess. This one is pretty sick. The Prophet Muhammad is the King Messiah from the lineage of Ishmael, peace be upon him. So see, Jesus was the Messiah, small m, but the Christian Messiah is the Antichrist, the Satan. And the Isa of Islam is the true Messiah who prophesied the coming of Muhammad. And Muhammad is the King Messiah.
This is what I've been talking about in some of my videos.
This is a discussion I want to have one day. I mean, this is lengthy. This is long. I've been writing this for a while. You see?
Didn't you know though, Lloyd, that it's the Jews who are waiting for the Antichrist? They're going to welcome him as their
Messiah.
Christian.
So are we. I mean, listen to this. So they wanted to pray, right? And the only person in the group that knew the prayers was a little boy of 6 years old or 7 years old. So they asked him to pray, to lead the prayer, right? And the prophet said, let the one amongst you who knows the Quran most lead the prayer. So they looked for such a person and found none who knew more Quran than I, because of the Quranic material which I used to learn from the caravans. They therefore made me their imam to lead the prayer. And at that time I was a boy of 6 or 7 years old, wearing a burda, a black square garment, which proved to be very short for me, and my body became partly naked. A lady from the tribe said, won't you cover the anus of your reciter for us?
This is madness.
This is Sahih Bukhari.
I'm glad you're doing all this work and I'm not, because I wouldn't be able to eat for at least a month, which is probably a good thing, actually.
Yeah, I've come to offer myself in marriage to you, so marry me. And then he replied, I accept. She went back to her people and said that the prophet of God had married her. And they said, what a bad thing you have done. You are a self-respecting woman, but the prophet is a womanizer. Seek an annulment from him. This is the history of Tabari, volume 9.
The prophet is a womanizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. We figured that out, but for
she
them
went
to
back
say
to him
it,
and he divorced her. This is Tabari. This is Tabari, volume 9, page 139. It's right here.
Where are the apologetic Muslim commenters?
They'll deny. They will lie about every one of these things. This Muhammad of yours is a dwarf and fat. So when Ubaydullah saw him, he said, this Muhammad of yours is a dwarf and fat. And it says here, he had become heavy.
White. His armpits are white, his legs are white, he's white, right? He's white.
The apostle made for a rock. He had become heavy, So when he tried to get up, he could not do so. Ubaydullah squatted beneath him and lifted him up because he was fat.
You see the blasphemy that comes out of Islam towards the Lord Jesus Christ, and we're not doing anything to mock him right now. We're reading, you're just reading what Tabari is
Narrated
written
Aisha,
about it.
a Bedouin came to the Prophet and said, "You people kiss the boys. We don't kiss them." Do you kiss the boys? I don't.
No.
I don't think it's a good idea.
Right, Enzo says Jesus is the Dajjal. Yeah, you see, they got this system, and when I talk about it, when I do my Bible prophecy videos, I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm telling you, this is the system that is fitting, and Bible is telling us what to prepare for.
I'll do a final one. On the authority of my father asked the Prophet for permission to kiss his body. When he was given permission, lifting his shirt, he approached his body and began to kiss and stick to him.
Such profanity. Look at it. I mean, it's all there. This
This
isn't
gets-
like some fringe element, like, you know, the Talmudic Jews over there, a little fringe element. No,
How
this
many
is
men
like
do you go up to and you
consensus,
start to
Islamic
kiss?
consensus.
This is sick. Understand? This is something I want to do a show on, because this is I want to do a show on this. Oh, sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen. I was just reading it. Sorry, my bad. I should have showed the screen.
Lame jihad, right? It's lame jihad, yeah. Right, death bread.
So what do people think of what I've just read out now?
And that is how many are deceived, right, Leanne? Yeah, exactly. Jeremiah says, what about there's a hadith that says the Mahdi would call himself Malik, and Malik meaning King of Kings. Yes, I've seen that. That's true. When Jesus returns, the Muslims will fight against the true Jesus and think he's false. Yeah, that's
exactly
correct.
what's
I've
supposed to
seen
happen,
that. I've seen that hadith.
Yeah. Don't forget, Jesus will come back and fight against the Christians and the Jews. He will kill all the Jews.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking, right? Oh my goodness. We need to flip the script on this false narrative that's out there that the Jews are
So how do we
saying
get this information out and make sure?
Islam wants to dominate. They say it openly, right? They say it with their placards. This isn't talking about individual nice, your lovely Muslim neighbor who's next door, such a lovely, wonderful person. Come on, let's be grown up, let's be mature. We're not talking about our lovely Islamic Muslim friends, our neighbors. Some of us have them as mum and dad, like myself. We're talking about this ideology, this system that, yes, millions and millions of people believe this, you guys. This isn't a fringe movement. We're talking about millions. And how many of them are going to leave Islam, find out what it really teaches, what the guys at the top, the Islamic Illuminati, what they really believe? When they find out, they're going to leave Islam. So we'll look forward to stuff like that. But this stuff needs to be out there. Christians need to be educated. They need to be informed. We're still going to get the crazies like that dusty, needy dude who's coming on us saying Zionism is incompatible with the Bible. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that just reading this, meaning the Muslim sources like you're doing, would probably free half the population of the Muslims. And that's exactly why all this stuff is secret.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. I didn't know this as ex-Muslim. I'm like, where are you getting this from? But I'm aware that the ones at the top, like people like my dad, granddad, they probably knew about this, you see. Muslim Brotherhood know about it. Hamas know about it. Hezbollah know about this.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
are the ones who know, and they're misleading their people to fight for them for jihad, because the Christian West is a warring religion, right? The Crusaders. They set the narrative, and we need to flip the script. Thank you so much. I get really upset. I'm sorry.
I know. No, look, you should read their sources. You must understand how angry it makes me.
Oh,
I read this stuff. I want to throttle people when I'm done with that.
Lord Jesus, I haven't even done that video I want to do regarding Edom, Esau and Jacob. It's going to be amazing now to talk about it, especially after this presentation, because it just confirms the Bible even more now. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah, look, I mean, one of the things we have to learn is to push back against their arguments. Notice they're struggling now to defend their Quran. and all the other books, because we're starting to learn their books. Now they're attacking the Bible. So lately I've been saying things to people because they say the most ridiculous things about the Bible, in comment sections, and I'll tell them, sorry, but that's not in the original Greek. You can't quote that. You have to understand it in the original Greek. But and sorry, no, that's from a source that is a non-Muslim. Sorry, you only quote from non-Muslim sources. You can't quote from Muslim sources that hate Christianity. Sorry, that's not from a scholar. You must consult a scholar. No, that's out of context. And good grief, it annoys the crap out of them when I do that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the time that has gone into just refuting Islamic Quranic text is like, let's just move along now. Let's just go up another level and talk about this kind of stuff. Friends, share it, use it. Link Lloyd's video, his channels, and Thaddeus is under if you're video producers, use it. Use this stuff. Get it out. Let it get out. Jeremiah says the problem is the left. Islam is growing under the protection of political correctness and under the umbrella of Islamophobia. Right, yeah. While anti-Semitism is, oh no, we can't,
Islam has a sophisticated set of polemics already written to attack Christianity. We just have never realized. I've been reading their books on that subject. They're not coming up with new arguments. They're repeating old arguments that go back to the 12 and 1300s. We have to learn what those arguments are, and we have to refute them, because they have reinterpreted the entire Bible. Almost every prophecy supposedly points to Muhammad and not Jesus.
There are modern popular Muslim apologists today who are repainting a candy floss watered Islam that is glamorous to those with an identity crisis. That's really well put.
Yeah, I started with that quote from that surah because that's exactly what it is. It's a lie. So yeah, all of this, so your thoughts, Thaddeus, this is gruesome, and how does one push back and fight against this?
Yeah, it's mostly just a question of getting this out there. And, we can't do that by ourselves. We need as many people talking to Muslims about this as possible. And, online, you mostly get these wannabe jihadi types who don't want to listen to anything. They just want to distract and waste your time. But when you talk to people in the real world, they're a lot more receptive because they don't know any of this stuff. Like Sonia said, she never knew any of this stuff when she was a Muslim. Most Muslims don't know this stuff. Most Muslims are in the dark. It's only the elites that know all this stuff. And then the wannabes that they train to invade the online comments and waste our time.
Yeah, look, I would love to start to coach people in this. I'm happy to. If people want, I can coach them. I have over 700 books. My collection is growing. I'm heading towards 800 books now. In my collection, I've got all the most authentic books. I know how to search through them. I know the resources online that I need. There's not many that you need, just a handful. But the knowledge is really how to search through these books quickly, and I know how to do that now. How to gather the data, and I know how Islam is structured. It's nothing like Christianity. It's not even like Judaism. It's got a cryptic structures, like a puzzle that you have to know how it works. I'm happy to teach people. I can do live streams myself. I can do training.
I was thinking doing, because you talked about this presentation, friends, you guys, you can't miss this. Lloyd's it's gonna be about the Muhammad you've never seen, never heard before, right? And I really think if you start doing this on your channel, do it like a teaching thing. I think your channel's going to blow up, because you know what it is? This is new information in a sense. We don't know, or there are people who are afraid to talk about it. You know why? Because some of us want to win Muslims over. We're little, I don't know. But there's a danger to being ignorant as well. There's a danger in that,
Muslims have already been taught to suspect that you are going to come and lie to them with your anti-Christian religion, with your satanic religion.
Yes,
remember, they've already been forewarned. When they're 5, they're told the Bible is corrupted, Christians are worshiping Satan, that the Islamic Jesus is the correct one, but they belittle him too. And I can just do that on another show. And then they're already told that they need to defend themselves against you because you're going to try and deceive them.
Yeah, they're already prepared. Yeah, because they've been indoctrinated, right? That is the real brainwashing right there, isn't it? Which is mind control. It's spirit of mind control in that whole thing. I don't know. It's just like I'm trying to think of something to say to help wrap this up, but I'm blown away with this. So, Thaddeus, have you got any thoughts on this?
I think that the important thing is to take this information and put it in use. I mean, if you just watch it and you're entertained, that doesn't do anyone any good. You got to take the information, apply it, use it, share it wherever you can. The idea here isn't just to entertain you, it's to educate people, it's to get the information about what Islam actually teaches out there, that kind of thing.
And hopefully this will also help to not validate me, but in a sense, when I'm talking about this beast kingdom or why I think it's coming from the Middle East, this is what it would look like. Hope that helps people to see it, to imagine what it would look like, because it's hard to express yourself with just talking without any presentation. So this is what I'm trying to warn people regarding the Islamic beast system. The kingdom is coming. They're preparing for it. They've got experience. They've been doing this for centuries.
Yeah, it distresses me that they've prepared. Muslim scholars have prepared against us for centuries, for 800, 1,000 years, and we don't even know their scriptures properly. You know,
no, we're
still
looking
arguing
in the other direction,
yeah.
right?
And
we're looking at the Jews.
And I mean, our apologists don't even really know this, the what do you call, not the substrate, the presupposition that the arguments are based on. We don't even know the actual premise the arguments are based on. We're still up here on the surface level. You know, we're not really, where are these arguments coming from? You know, our apologists don't know this, and we should stop being apologists. We need to be polemics. We need to do polemics. We need to get out there and go on the offense.
Like Jay Smith says that he's a polemicist. He goes on the offensive, right? Yeah.
I just wish they would get off the Quran and start talking about the Sharia, and then you start to see how the Tafsir and all the other books link into the Sharia.
Well, of course, they don't want us to do that. Our Muslim viewers, the ones who are out there leaving those comments, they don't want that information to get out because they're ashamed. They know what it is. They know what it says, and it kind of ruins the plan.
Yeah, but then our apologists are negligent for not going there.
I think people are intimidated. I think, you know, why ruin a good thing? You know, it's a comfort zone as well, I think, you know.
Sorry, that is
maybe, I don't know, perhaps.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, a lot of Christian apologetics is concentrated on the arguments of atheists. You know, probably 80-90% of all material put out by Christian apologists addresses the arguments of atheists. And atheists constitute like 3-4% of the world's population. They're a very insignificant group, but you know, they're very loud and vocal in the West. So that's what we concentrate all our efforts on. We definitely need to address atheism, but we need to spend more time addressing other things. And Islam's at the top of that list. I mean, there's more Muslims than any other religion in the world other than Christianity. So that should be our number one target.
I agree. Well, let us round this up, and I'm thinking perhaps you could introduce your next series maybe on your channel from next week, and let's get some guys over there and just start listening, learning. It's like a training, isn't it? It's training. We're learning. We're at school. We're learning. Jesus said for us to be wise as serpents. You know, that means to you know, you'll have to go places you don't want to go. You've got to be crafty. You've got to be cunning in a way, like know our enemy. But they have another saying, don't they, Lloyd? What is it again? Don't let your enemy know they're your enemy.
Yeah, don't let your enemy know they're your enemy. Yeah.
Yeah, they just take it up a notch or two. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. The battle of the text. Yeah. Battle of the text.
I will link to all the books. I'll put them in the comments like we did before, you know, and then you can pin it.
Blow up. No pun intended. Gentle as doves.
Yeah, if you look at part 1, the books are linked in a pinned comment, and I will pin the additional sources as well. I'll upload those. Search on archive.org for any, but I'll probably link to those. But I'll link all the books that I've discussed today.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And so will the viewers. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We had 26 people live in the chat. That's really nice. It's the same as last week, I believe. Thank you ever so much. And we'll keep you posted with some more updates. Again, please subscribe to Thad's channel, Lloyd's channel, for more information. And look out for some more collaborations, but also follow his work as well, because he's done a lot more videos on his channel, a lot more of them recently. So I'm really pleased to announce that. And hopefully we'll catch up with one another soon.
Night, guys.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everyone.
Thank
Cheerio.
you.
Bye.